Hello everyone, I'm Dilhani Vapatana from ATI Kegol. Welcome to the third video lesson of HNDA 2105 Database Management Systems and Data Analysis. In this module, I'm going to explain you about the basic concepts of relational databases. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to describe the concept of relational database model, the terminologies associated with the relational model, the importance of keys, and how to establish relationship between tables within the relational model. What we mean by a relational database? A relational database stores data into tables. These tables can be linked or related based on the data common to each. When you want to find any data element within the database, you can refer to that data with help of the name of the table and the attribute name and the value of the primary key. This definition states some of the terms such as entity, attribute, and table. These are some of the terminologies used in relational database model. Now let's talk about these terminologies associated with the relational model. The relational database model was developed by E.F. Codd in 1970s, where all data is represented in terms of records within a relation. Depending upon the different textbooks you refer or different people you are speaking with, you may find that there are different terms for the same concept. For an example, a table and a relation refers to the same concept. A table row could be referred as a tuple, as an instance, or a record. And also, a table column could be referred as an attribute or a field. First of all, let's see what is an entity. An entity is an object, concept, or an event. This is also referred as a table or a relation. Conceptually, an entity represents a single business concept. It is something important that we want to store information about it. For an example, an employee might be an entity because entity employee is an important fact that we want to store information about it. And also, department might be an entity because department details are also important, so we need to store information about it. When you take each of these, it represents a single business concept which has information on different attributes. This is an example entity. This entity represents an employee. It contains data about employee ID, employee name, and the department ID. When we consider about the concept of entity, an entity of a database model is a logical construct. That means employee entity is what we would really think as an employee. Next, we are going to talk about tables. In a relational database, we represent entities using tables. Table is a two-dimensional grid which contains rows and columns. For an example, this is the relation employee. Here we have 3 columns and 4 rows. First row is used to mention the column names, and rest of the rows contains data about employees. As you are aware now, table contains rows and columns. A row represents data about the entity. For an example, each row in this employee relation would represent a single employee. Another rule related to rows is no two rows within the table can be identical. That means if we take all of the values of a row together, they cannot be identical to any other row in the table. A row could also be referred as a tuple, instance, or a record. Here, in this example, we have 4 rows. That means we also can say there are 4 tuples, 4 instances, or 4 records within this table. When the rows represent data about the entity, columns represent attributes of the entity. For an example, in employee relation, we have 3 columns which contains values for employee ID, employee name, and the department ID. A column could also be referred as an attribute or a field. All the values that we store within a column must be of the same data type. For an example, in this example, employee IDs stored in the column 1 are all integers. And also, within a table, each column has a unique name. Therefore, when we are requesting data from the database, each column can be referred using that name. We could not create 2 columns of a table with the same name, but we can have the same column name within another table. Another important term is a cell. A cell is an intersection of a row and a column. We do not store more than one value within the same cell. In this example, if you refer the intersection point of row 2 and column 2, the cell value is JSON. Now I am going to talk about the notion of keys. A key is an attribute of a relation which is used to identify a record. A key could be a unique key or a non-unique key. As you see in this example, no 2 employees have the same ID. That means that would be a unique key. On the other hand, more than one employee have a value of 3 for the department ID, and that would be a non-unique key. There are different types of keys which will be explained in coming lessons. In this lesson, we are going to talk about 2 important keys named as primary key and foreign key. What is a primary key? Primary key is the candidate key attribute that is most suited to maintain the uniqueness in a table at the row level. This means if we know the value of the primary key, we can easily find a specific single row within the table. For an example, if I know a specific employee ID, I can easily find a single specific employee within the table. For an example, if we refer the employee ID 503, that refers to the employee Anushka who works in the department 3. If we refer the employee ID 502, that refers to the employee named Jason who works for the department 2. As I have explained so far, an entity represents a single concept. But in a database, we have number of entities, and therefore it is common to have relationships among them. For an example, there is a relationship between employee and the department because an employee works in a department. That means each department may contain many employees. And also, there is a relationship between student and the course. A student registers for a course. That means each course may contain many students. In a database, To establish these relationships, we need to implement something called a foreign key. A foreign key is a primary key from one table added to another table. This is used to link the records in those tables together. As you see in this example, we have two entities named entity employee and the department. In this case, department ID in the department table is the primary key and it is included in employee table to serve as a foreign key. When we have this relationship, if we know the department ID of a specific employee, we can easily determine the name of the department using that department ID. This is how the relationships are established in databases. Now we have come to the end of this lesson. In this lesson, I explained about the basic concepts of the relational model and some terminologies associated with the relational model and how to establish relationship between tables. I hope you got a clear idea about relational databases. And after this lesson, you could start your practical sessions with help of the practical session video and with help of the recap sessions if any. Thank you and have a nice day.